Hey guys, it's Shawn. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk about business courts today and how business courts are working their way into the news yet again. One of the things I do for you guys, the viewers, is I keep a scan of a lot of the legal issues, particularly legal issues related to business law, and I make notes of potential topics for shows like today's. If you see issues, do feel free to contact me, either comment to the videos or contact me directly and let me know what you're seeing out there. But business courts are an interesting thing. We are now seeing them in the news. We're going to talk about what we're seeing right now and what the developments are. But I thought this was a good time also to take a broader look at business courts and what they are, what they mean, why they're important for us as business owners and business leaders, and why we care whether our states have business courts and how they matter to our potential disputes. So these are important things. They are a growing trend in the United States. We're seeing more and more development of business courts or business tracks within the U.S. system. So it's good to know important stuff, and it's maybe a consideration for you about choice of venue in an agreement where you're going to actually litigate if litigation happens. It may also affect where you want to form your company. It may be that important of an issue that it is a critical thing. So let's jump into it a little bit. We'll talk about some legal stuff today. Again, not legal advice. Consult your legal advisor. We're here just to educate, entertain. Consult your financial or investment advisor for those types of issues as well. What are business courts? Business courts is a broad category of courts that are used for business disputes. And the truth is, different states handle it different ways. Delaware, where I began my practice and is kind of one of the classics, has a split court system depending on the nature of the action. They have a court of common pleas, and then they have a court of chancery, and depending on where your type of action is, will route you into one court or system or the other. Because of this, the Delaware Court of Chancery has become kind of the choice for a lot of business litigation, right? The nature of most business disputes, looking for equitable relief, dealing with some of these statutory rights, they tend to get, by Delaware law, moved into the Court of Chancery. So Delaware has had kind of a default business court system for some time. And it gained a lot of admiration because people like the idea of going to a court that is experienced in business matters. Whereas in other states, they were just business litigation was considered just general civil litigation and would get routed through wherever it would fall in the court system. And as I always said, and I've had practitioners out west tell me this. You'll have a judge handling a cattle case, one day, and the next day they're moved on to some business partnership litigation, right? And you can see how, for a judge, it would be tough to build the expertise of dealing with all these complex business issues when they got such a wide-ranging docket and so many different things to deal with. So the idea is to have dedicated courts. Different states have handled this different ways. Some states have, enacted legislation. They have actually enacted laws that have created a business court system. Many states, the answer has actually been through the court system. And while court systems aren't supposed to necessarily legislate, what many of them have done is they've started systems for routing and dividing their cases. This is an interesting area because, courts need to administer themselves. They need to figure out how to deal with all the cases coming through. And what many courts are doing is they are setting up a business court with expertise to route cases related to business to judges who are really experts in the area. All of this in a response to try to get through things moving faster, to have expertise in the courtroom, both from the judge and perhaps the lawyers as well, because if you're in a more focused and more narrow focus of a court, you might have more narrow and focused attorneys as well. So the idea is to have a court system, either an explicit court system set up for business cases or a track or system where business cases go somewhere else. They're created as a number of different ways. Georgia has now appointed a new judge to their court system. which is just part of the process, right? You can see now these are just like other courts, they become political. You got to come up with these judges somewhere. These judges are going to have to go out and run for election, or they'll have to get appointed through, again, the political process. Usually a governor. We don't necessarily have any federal business courts per se. Most business litigation tends to be state issues, although some of the federal courts are very knowledgeable about business litigation matters, and they can really build an expertise because that is a part of their docket that comes up more regularly, right? So, but there's not necessarily a federal business court system as you would see in Georgia, where they have statutorily created it, as in Delaware, where they have the Chancery Court. But in most court systems, this has been done more informally through the judges coming together. Why is it important for you and me? Because when we're setting up our companies and we're determining where we want to put our businesses, we need to think about what would happen if we end up in litigation. So one of the questions you're probably looking at, or your lawyer may be asking you as you're getting into contracts and agreements, is, which governing law do you want? Which court system do you want to be in, right? That is kind of one of the fundamental questions in contract drafting, and it comes across the LLC agreements, sometimes the corporate transactional documents. So one of the considerations is, where are you going to end up in if you end up in litigation? Are you going to end up with a good judge in a business court that understands what's going on? Or are you going to end up with a judge who maybe has done a lot of other things, maybe doesn't have a specific expertise in business? And that's not to say anything negative about any judges. It's just some judges may be dealing with so many different subject matters between all of their cases that they don't have the ability to develop that deep well of knowledge on business. Now, some people argue that businesses shouldn't get special treatment. They shouldn't be treated any better or different than general civil matters. And I think that really misses the point. All of these different matters, whether they're general civil matters, neighbor suing neighbor, real estate transactions, business transactions, they're all going to find their way through the court system. And the real question is, how are they going to find their way through the court system? Are they going to just get randomly scattered among all the different judges? Or are we going to group them and clump them together in certain categories and have somebody with expertise? Now, courts already do this routinely to some extent, right? It's very common for courts to separate criminal matters from civil matters and to route them differently. What we're really talking about here is, now if you take that bucket of civil matters and redivide them between business matters and non-business matters, when you look at it that way, it's really not that extreme of a proposal, even though some of the opponents of business courts will tell you that this is really creating a two-tier system, differential treatment, should businesses have priority in getting to court. But to us business owners, if we have a dispute, we generally want to go to an expert. We want to get it answered. We want to answer it promptly, and we want to get back to our business. Having been in cases with clients, having had clients that have been in these business disputes, I can tell you, you want these things over. They are taxing on you and the system. I occasionally counsel clients to settle matters just because the litigation will be so time-consuming, complex, and energy-sapping that they're better off just getting back to their business, especially for low-dollar stuff. So how we litigate, where we litigate, is certainly a material factor in determining how things are set up. So you as a business owner need to be thinking about this. Am I in a state with business courts? Are those business courts doing a good job or not? Where do I want to take my contract disputes? Generally, a lot of people like to have that, quote, home field advantage to have lawsuits related to the contracts they're a party to in their home court, home state. And that does make a lot of sense. But if that court system has been problematic or irrational or not providing the type of consistency we'd like, maybe you want to go somewhere else. It's something we want to think about as part of our legal drafting, as part of our contracts, as part of putting our agreements together. We want to think about, where might this go? What might that look like? How will that impact us, our potential liability? Folks, glad you've been with me. Would love to hear your comments about business courts below. Don't leave any confidential information, but I do want to hear what you think about the business court system, and maybe what's happening in your state. Would be great to learn that. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like so more people can see it. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notification so that you can join me for more videos very soon. Catch you soon. Thanks for tuning in today.